As the American economy recovers from the worst impacts of the pandemic, questions remain about the labor force and the problems that plagued the economy even prior to the start of COVID-19. In the final installment of Paul Solman's Work Shift series, he looks at what we've learned and what's at stake for workers and employers.
All around us, jobs going wanting. But it couldn't just have been pandemic unemployment benefits and low wages keeping workers in dry dock.
Okay, going in.
Because a host of high-paying jobs have gone unfilled for a very long time.
I've got plumbers that work for me today that make $200,000 plus a year.
And yet Seattle plumbing contractor Vinny Spazzari has been unable to find workers for years.
I could hire 6, 8 experienced plumbers right now.
So why the labor shortage?
You're doing manual labor. Some people tend to look down on that.
Sarah Schnabel, a Cornell grad, became an electrician.
For people my age, it's definitely more glamorous to think of the tech job where you're in a really nice, cushy office building.
High schoolers in Southwest Louisiana had an added explanation.
That's not an option that's often presented to us. Like, this is not for you.
It's like, go to college, go to college. There's barely anybody saying, go to trade school.
Get ready.
Right, said Mike Rowe, famous for his cable TV series Dirty Jobs.
The push for one form of education, in my view, really was the beginning of a long list of stigmas and stereotypes and myths and misperceptions that to this day dissuade millions of kids from pursuing a legitimate opportunity to make six figures in the trades.
A final reason the trades are underpopulated, up until recently, some 2/3 of Americans were excluded. Women, people of color, or both.
Dead rats in my lunchbox. Like the women before me, they wanted me to leave.
Plumber Adrienne Bennett, who now runs her own firm.
I was in a porta john one time, they picked me up with the crane. And you're bouncing around in there and you got that sewage, it's splashing all over you. You're afraid.
Electrician Tanya Hicks also has her own company.
I had a foreman tell me that all Black women do is get fat, have a bunch of kids, and collect welfare.
But it's not just the trades that can't fill jobs today. Tons of low-wage workers seem to be fed up with their pay and work and just aren't taking it anymore. And maybe they shouldn't, says economist Byron O'Geist.
During the pandemic, we saw tens of millions of essential workers do amazing things that required skills, that required adaptability, that required problem solving, that required teamwork, that required communication under very difficult conditions.
And given data collected by his firm, Opportunity at Work, they could be earning a lot more.
30 million today have the skills based on the work they're doing for jobs that pay at least 50% more than the jobs they're in.
So how to get those tens of millions of low-wage workers better opportunities? Government job training programs are one route, like Back to Work Rhode Island, where then-Governor Gina Raimondo used federal CARES Act money to fund training programs in areas where employers couldn't fill jobs.
We will tailor these training initiatives so that when you hire someone, you have confidence that they're going to be able to do the job.
Some 4,000 Rhode Islanders have already graduated into new, higher-paying jobs. But in general, says Professor Doug Besharov, government isn't the ideal overseer.
It doesn't learn fast enough. It fights the last war. And change is happening more rapidly as we speak, and it will continue to happen. And I think government will be left behind.
There's a huge body of research on government job training. And overall, I would say the results are unfortunately disappointing.
Economist Ariella Spitzer studies job training.
The good ones we're seeing, at most 5 to 10% earnings increase.
Moreover, government job training programs reach only a couple of 100,000 people a year. So what about those coding camps we hear so much about? Well, many of them cost money to attend. At the very least, cost trainees the income they forego while training. Plus, they tend to be short-term.
The idea is great. The execution is not.
In Louisville, Kentucky, entrepreneur Ankur Gopal has hit on apprenticeships, lengthy programs where trainees are paid as a way of staffing his mobile software firm, Interapt. An especially stunning success story, single mother April Hickman, raised in foster care, homeless before she applied for an Interapt apprenticeship. Of all the foster kids you've known, given the same kind of opportunity, same kind of training. What percentage of them could do what you're doing now?
Oh gosh, a great number, because it's problem solving. And if there's one thing that we're good at, it's problem solving, you know, because we've had to.
Alex Hughes worked in the coal industry before making the switch to software. What percentage of people in the coal industry could do jobs as sophisticated as what you're doing here?
That's 100%. It's a very technical industry, and so they're always having to learn and adapt.
In fact, every successful apprentice I interviewed for this series claimed that between 50 and 100% of those in their position could do the same, given the chance. IBM Human Resources Executive Kelly Jordan agreed.
Anybody can make that transition.
But it can't be anybody, right? I mean, there's got to be a lot of people who just can't do this, no?
I think it's possible that anybody probably could if they've got the right motivation. But I think the other side of that coin is companies have to be more willing to think differently.
Differently enough to look for talent among those without the usual educational credentials and experience. At IBM, that included rideshare driver at Queen of Fame, nail technician Mariana Perez, dog trainer Jennifer Burgess, retail store manager Ray Rodriguez. They all turned underappreciated, underpaid skills into high-skill, high-paying jobs at IBM. How high-paying?
I have tripled in salary from what I've ever made in my life.
And though Jennifer Burgess was trained and credentialed as a project manager, she says her skill set isn't that different from dog training.
Because it's about training the humans to be able to do what you need them to do.
But is Jennifer Burgess typical or unusual?
The answer is we don't know how many people can do it.
This is Doug Besheroff.
The more people see other people doing these jobs, the more they'll change their behavior in school, in the community. It is a dynamic process where people get expectations and decide, you know, I can be like him.
There's an inclination to focus on the success stories, but we also have to be realistic about the fact that there are a lot of cases where this is not working.
On the other hand, says Ariella Spitzer,
I think just because prior job training programs have not been as effective as we had hoped they would be, doesn't mean that the next generation of job training programs can't be.
And so it could be that IBM, for example, or Interapt have a model that could be replicated and could be extremely effective.
Absolutely. And I think that it's important for companies like that to be really transparent about what they're doing so that we can make those strategies available to other people.
Other people like formerly homeless single mother April Hickman.
This company is amazing because I came in knowing that they saw me, you know, and they wanted to help me. Before, I didn't have the skill to get out of where we were, but I do now.
And she's already gotten her first promotion. For the PBS NewsHour, Paul Salman.